welcome everybody. We are joined by Nashville SC head coach Gary Smith. Coach, your thoughts on today's result?
The first half certainly looked like, now we can reflect on it, the best opportunities to have given ourselves a bit of breathing space against this top side. I thought there was some really good play in that first period. We controlled good portions of the game. Slight shift in the shape of the group, I think, helped to try and get some pressure higher up the field, and for the most part I thought we were the better side in that first period. Unfortunately, with just the one goal to our name at that point, it was always going to be tough knowing how creative and effective this LA group are, and that was pretty much how the second half ended up. They had some very good opportunities in the end, and quite frankly, if it had gone on a bit longer, maybe we would have lost that. However, I thought it was a terrific display. It was a very good game, and I thought in terms of what we got out of it and what we can take forward, there were plenty of things to be very excited about.
Thank you, Coach. We are going to open the floor for questions for those in the room, and then we'll go on to Zoom. Valer, go ahead, please.
Hey, Gary. We saw that Walker Zimmer seems like the type of guy you want to have on the field for all 90 minutes. What was the reason for that substitution?
His groin tightened up. Yeah, it made it clear at half time that he was in a bit of discomfort. We of course wanted to see how he was going to react in that second period, but I think he stiffened up in that half-time break, and it was hopefully not too long that he was out there to do too much damage.
Just as a follow-up real quick,
yes.
We saw Dan Lovett shift to the middle, and then Josh Bauer later came on. Was the plan to always go to a back three, or is that something that happened?
Not really, no. I thought there were some very encouraging things to come out of the shape that we were playing. It really looked like LA with their changes and the confidence and momentum that they were building. It seemed like a good time with the bodies we had on the field and the work that they'd put in to add maybe another defender and give ourselves the best platform we could to still try and look for the odd opportunity. But at that point, I thought we were trying to, seize the momentum back a little bit off of them, rather than, maybe taking the game to them at that point.
Derek, go ahead.
Y'all had a few great chances, just multiple times Mukhtar and stuff, but they just didn't seem to go in. How can that change going up forward?
Well, I think the best chances, as I said, were in that first period. Certainly after the goal was scored. It took a while, I think, for both teams to try and find some good traction in the game. Those early periods were about trying to control possession and take advantage of your shape and the way that the game ebbed and flowed. And I thought we did a terrific job, but once the goal went in, the game seemed to open up a little bit more, got a little bit more stretched, and there were two or three moments. The best one, obviously, was Hanny's chance when he did ever so well individually to put himself in a great spot, but couldn't quite find the back of the net, and unfortunately we've lived to rue that.
Gary, it seems like this game was similar in some aspects as the other games when Nashville has always played a better half in the first half, and not scoring the chances makes the second half up a hill. Just the way it is. But how much of the absence of Zimmerman from the team kind of changed everything in terms of how they feel? Nashville, not the other team, but Nashville felt itself for the rest of the game in the second half.
Well, if you look back at, I think the 3 years prior to this season, Walker's been, an absolute rock and foundational piece of our defence. And it's not just about the qualities of the individual, it's the ability that player has for others actually to lean on him as well. And I think the prime example of that is Jack. Jack has grown and matured in his career alongside Walker. And there have been plenty of times where Jack's needed to lean on Walker for his experience and his physical prowess. Once you take that alpha individual out of the group, there can be a void left for a period. Everyone's looking around at who's going to fill that gap and who's going to give us that presence. And, you know, the difficulty for us is, you know, we lost Nick, and that's a completely different subject, but in losing Nick and his physical presence as an experienced centre-back in this league, we're now looking around at alternatives. And Daniel can do, you know, a sterling job in that position, but Josh somehow, some way, has got to be, I think, bled into the group so that we can see what he's capable of now. And a good opportunity for that will be Wednesday night. We'll get a much better idea against good opposition here, you know, in this stadium for some of those guys that maybe have not seen so much of the field, because they're going to be needed. They're going to be in a position where they've got to help. And, you know, tonight was one of those occasions where I think as a group in general, we needed to fill that big hole that was left by Walker.
Coach, Justin from 104.5 The Zone. Honda Mukhtar scored tonight, he scored last week. 2 straight results of 1 goal. Where else do you see the offense coming from?
Well, it's a good question. I think there's plenty of dimensions in the group. Faf has been very bright and very lively tonight. I thought Till was terrific for just over an hour. The difference between being bright and purposeful and willing is having the confidence and the inspiration in particular moments in and around the area, just to find that extra half a yard and to execute in a clean fashion. And at the moment, outside of Hanny, we're finding it difficult. But that's, as I've said on a couple of occasions, that's through no lack of trying. When Jacob comes on, again, he brings an exuberance and an energy and does ever so well to beat the full-back as almost immediately as he came on and hang a ball up to the back post that was just beyond the centre forwards. There are different dimensions in this team, and we haven't hit a high gear with all of those players yet. Hanny's rounding into some form, although there were times tonight that he obviously found it very difficult against the top side. My hope is that we haven't got anywhere close to our capabilities going forward, and we're in a competitive position. You know, I think, you know, our group in general will always be viewed as a group that are always tough to play against. There will be, as we move forward, I hope times that we can look out there and say, okay, we've set our stall out well, we've got a strong foundation, and guess what? The forwards are firing on all cylinders now. We're looking the group that we might have all expected us to be, and it's taken us a little bit longer than I would like, and probably the fans would like. But what I do know is there's plenty more to come out of this group, which is obviously encouraging.
We are going to transition to those on the Zoom. Tim, go ahead with your question. I think you have a follow-up, ask it as well.
Hey Gary, Jack finally got that 400th MLS start tonight. How, I guess, excited and you know, proud of that achievement are you for him, and especially taking the armband after Walker came off, and then I guess kind of related, what is Sean's current status?
Well, first of all, absolutely delighted for Dax. He's had a wonderful career to date, and of course, you know, we all hope, and I'm sure he does, it continues on. He's been terrific for this club and many others, but if we just concentrate on ourselves, he's been a great leader throughout his time here. A wonderful addition to this group, and somebody that has created the culture that we see right now. You know, at this point in his career, I think it's adapted fantastically well from maybe those early days where he was an absolute dynamo, you know, covering every blade of grass. But what you see now is an individual who dictates, who uses a lot of his quality and his abilities and his experience to try and influence the game. But 400 appearances mean that he's been fit, healthy, in form, and obviously an excellent career to get to that point. As far as Sean's concerned, unfortunately, he fell foul of a minor problem on Friday morning, and it's kept him out of the group, not just this weekend, but we'll assess early part of the week, hopefully not too long.
And obviously, the match didn't turn out the way you wanted. This was the first time in a league match that LAFC had trailed all season. Can you I guess, take something from that and kind of build on it going forward, even just from the results? They haven't given up a ton of results either. What can you take forward from this match and kind of build on it from?
Well, look, they're an absolutely elite group of players and team. When you do the double, it gives you an added confidence and belief in what you're capable of. And I think this team have gone from strength to strength. I know there have been some changes, not only tonight, but obviously to the group. A result here is obviously a good one. However, being in front and knowing the opportunities that we had in the first half, I would have backed our group if we could have made it to when we were on top to have seen that game out. And I think at this moment in time, therein lies, maybe one of the little frustrations that we'll walk away with tonight. And I know I was asked the question before about, the forwards firing on all cylinders somewhat. And we're not quite there yet. And what that means is, if you can't extend the lead against top sides like this when you're on top, there's always the chance that the likes of Buanga, who is making an incredible case for himself for MVP already in the season, is going to cause you a problem. And when you see the likes of Vela and Acosta come off the bench, you know that there's going to be some difficulties late in the game. So it's a decent performance tonight. There'll be, I think, some confidence to take out of it. We'll debrief on this on Monday, and hopefully that's a bit of a confidence boost as we move forward in this, what will be a tough week.
Ben, go ahead, Rick.
Oh, sorry.
Greedy team.
Gary, I was going to ask about Joe. We've talked a lot about defense, but he had another solid performance tonight. I think 5 saves. What did you make of his showing tonight? I mean, not even just tonight, but this season. What have you made of his performance?
He's been absolutely outstanding. I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again because he's come around again. I think he's in the form of his life. He's been absolutely wonderful in this opening 9 games. He has been a core piece of why we are so tough to play against. They've had, I think it was 18 shots and 6 on target. Some good opportunities. One that I think was skied and didn't hit the target, but in between, 2 or 3 excellent saves at very important times. And that in itself, I think, gives that back line and the rest of the group some real confidence to try and offer a little bit more in the other direction. So, delighted the way that he's playing.
And then last one for me. Looking forward to Wednesday. I mean, I know you're not going to give away much what you're planning, but how do you balance wanting to put out not just a competitive side, but a side that can advance in the Open Cup while also potentially giving some of these guys who have played every weekend a little bit of a break?
Well, yeah, that's always, the key component. Tough game today, tough game against Atlanta the following weekend, next weekend, but a home game against the USL champions. We certainly won't take this lightly against them. They're a very tough side. They're very well organised, and it will be a tremendously difficult game here on Wednesday. But we are at home. I do want to advance. I want to make sure that we have a strong side out there, one that can compete against this USL group. So, look, I'll reassess the group. I'll see, what players have got some lumps and bumps and bruises and maybe need a rest. But I think suffice to say, you're probably going to see a group that is a bit of a hybrid of what you've seen here tonight, with some guys coming into the group that deserve and need some football, and are also going to give a good account of themselves and go